Hi, welcome to the first Killooleet Campfire of 2021. I get to kick things off with the Quartermaster Store. I'm going to sing a verse for you and then talk to you just a little bit about the song. There were fleas, 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 fleas with kilts and hairy knees in the store, in the store, in the store, in the store. There were fleas, 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 fleas with kilts and hairy knees in the quartermaster's store. My eyes are dim, I cannot see. I have not got my specs with me. I have not got my specs with me. What I love about this song, many things. One is that I learned it in college at the same place and time where I met Kate, and we both learned it from Jean Redpath at Wesleyan in 1975. I also love this song because it has so many parts for you to sing. It has the echo part, it has the chorus, and there's even a sort of a counterpoint you can sing to the chorus. So I'm going to do a couple more verses, and then I'm going to teach you that counterpoint. Okay? There were rats, 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 rats with bowler hats and spats in the store, in the store, in the store, in the store. There were rats, 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 rats with bowler hats and spats in the quartermaster's store. My eyes are dim, I cannot see. I have not got my specs with me. I have not got my specs with me. There were flies, 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 wearing suits and ties in the store, in the store, in the store, in the store. There were flies, 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 wearing suits and ties in the quartermaster's store. My eyes are dim, I cannot see. I have not got my specs with me. I have not got my specs with me. So if you've got that chorus down cold and you want to try something different, you can do this. My eyes are dim, I cannot see. I have not got my specs with me on the second half of the chorus. So you can try that in the next couple of verses. This song goes back at least 100 years. A quartermaster was the supply person in charge of an army unit. So that was the person who ordered and resupplied the stocks of everything that they needed. And he was a really important person to know and have a good relationship with if you wanted more bullets for your guns or bandages for your hospital or whatever. There were tables, 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 tables with legs like Betty Grable's in the store, in the store, in the store, in the store. There were tables, 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 tables with legs like Betty Grable's in the quartermaster's store. My eyes are dim, I cannot see. I have not got my specs with me. I have not got my specs with me. There were pigs, 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 dancing Irish jigs in the store, in the store, in the store, in the store. There were pigs, 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 dancing Irish jigs in the quartermaster's store. My eyes are dim, I cannot see. My eyes are dim, I cannot see. I have not got my specs with me. There were sheep, 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 driving in a jeep in the store, in the store, in the store, in the store. There were sheep, 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 driving in a jeep in the quartermaster's store. My eyes are dim, I cannot see. I have not got my specs with me. I have not got my specs with me. And one more. There were campers, 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 loading laundry hampers in the store, in the store, in the store, in the store. There were campers, 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 loading laundry hampers in the quartermaster's store. My eyes are dim, I cannot see. I have not got my specs with me. I have not got my specs with me. Well, thanks for singing along. I think I could just about hear you on that last verse. I'm going to turn it over to Kate now.
Welcome. And Kim, thank you so much. I hope everyone is settling into campfire mode. Do you have your bug spray? Do you have your long pants on? And perhaps you have a little piece of sky where you could see the stars later. The stars are always closer in Hancock, but I think it's important to look at the sky always. So I have another song for you. And it is a happy song in spite of, if you've never heard it before, what it sounds like at first. Our old cat died last night, the wife said, you better bury it out of sight. Well, we haven't got a yard 'cause we're living in a flat, so what was I to do with the body of a cat? Then a big brown paper bag I spied, and I popped our dear old cat inside. And I skedaddled with the body in the bag. So off I went with the body in the bag, the body in the bag, ta-ra-ra. Well, I threw it in the river, but the hero of some play jumped right in to save it, crying, hip, 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 hooray. Says he to me, I don't do this as a rule, and now I find I'm rather wet and also rather cool. Well, I had to take my trousers off and give 'em to the fool for saving me the body in the bag. So off I went with the body in the bag, the body in the bag, ta-ra-ra. Well, I stepped into a pub to have a whiskey neat, gently laid my parcel underneath the seat. But scarcely had I gotten but a short way down the town when a voice rang out behind me, here's your parcel, Mr. Brown. Well, I had to stop and give the fool a half a crown for saving me the body in the bag. So off I went with the body in the bag, the body in the bag, ta-ra-ra. Well, I crept up some stairs as quiet as any mouse, gently laid my parcel on the doorstep of a house. Suddenly the door flew open and a lady dressed in blue said, Pardonnez-moi, monsieur, but do you parlez-vous? I said, good heavens, no, lady, I've something else to do. And I skedaddled with the body in the bag. So off I went with the body in the bag, the body in the bag, ta-ra-ra. Well, I crept into a garden, I was feeling very brave, and with a pick and shovel I commenced to dig a grave. Well, I got an awful shock when a voice behind me said, hey, you're digging my potatoes, well, you could have knocked me dead. 'Cause there I was a-digging on his cauliflower bed. So I ran with the body in the bag. So off I went with the body in the bag, the body in the bag, ta-ra-ra. Well, I headed for home, and my feet began to drag, and suddenly I felt a movement inside the bag. I peeped inside, and I heard a plaintive meow. You needn't bother, Tabby said, it's all right now. And there were 7 little bodies in the bag. So off I went with the bodies in the bag. The bodies in the bag, ta-ra-ra. Off I went with the bodies in the bag. The bodies in the bag, ta-ra-ra. Thank you. I'm going to give my guitar to Dean so that I can not hold it. And it's a little exciting. Well, you just heard Kim Wallach and me singing 2 classic songs, me and Dean, singing 2 classic songs at open campfires. Other performers tonight will be George Ward, Pete Downlegro, Chris Texunian, and Tony and Judy Seeger. We are busy planning for the opening of camp this summer, working with a team of staff members. The decisions and possibilities are mind-boggling, and the list of unknowns has changed, but hasn't gotten much smaller in the past few months. We are still actively fundraising for costs directly related to being open camp in June and for scholarship. We anticipate greater need for tuition assistance, and the Seeger Bartlett Foundation and the ACA grants are critical parts of our basic budget. Dean and I have spent the last year noticing that often what works at camp is helpful in the off-season, particularly in COVID times. Things like cabin cleanup and kitchen crew are useful when everyone is working, eating, playing, and sleeping in the same house. Kitchen crew for help with meal prep and cleanup is supportive when more meals are cooked and eaten at home. Now, as we watch the rollout of the vaccine, shovel snow, and experience school fluctuating between in-person and virtual, the winter is seeming long, very long. The time of camp we compare this to is when returning campers are waiting eagerly for checking in and out to start. Now, think about it. We've had months of learning new rules, trying everything and getting used to masks, social distancing, and cancellations of games, gatherings, and events. We've gotten much better at Google Classroom, Zoom meetings, and living with our family 24/7. Hopefully, you have enjoyed some good family time and eaten some delicious food. And yet we all want to be able to choose our activities and avoid the ones we are less enthusiastic about. We want to be able to control our time and do what we want to do. The challenge for us all is the pandemic is not going to let us out of this waiting stage for months. What we say to impatient campers during summer is, remember, you have lots of time in recalls. Alumni, do you remember recalls? Recall is the time for yourself between group activities that many people feel makes camp so much better than school. When you were at camp, think back. You used to do more with that time than just get Ellie candy. You used that time to get a guitar lesson, practice softball by hitting autos on the upper field, helped out at the barn hoping for extra riding, things like that. Now, hopefully all of you now at home have found something you genuinely enjoyed in the past year, a silver lining. Perhaps you gained a new skill, or discovered a new food to cook. The question is, where are the recalls in your typical day this winter? We need to remember to learn new songs, make small amounts of time to draw or meditate, or take short walks if we can't squeeze in a long walk, and dig deep for patience. Some campers say a bad day at Killooleet is often better than a good day at school. Having our health, keeping our families and ourselves protected, figuring out how to continue to live with the current restrictions is much better than only noticing the illness and loss. Those things are real, but they are not all that is real. I'm just beginning to find recalls, and I did rediscover sea shanties, and a couple of sea shanties I want to learn. If you too go to music for your recalls, there are unemployed musicians getting Zoom lessons, easy to find. Let us know songs that you would like to hear at the next Sing. The next Sing is going to be March 6th, a month away. Check out the Spotify playlists that Colleen Sudak and Kim Wallach are working on. And as you think about favorite songs, always get in touch with us if you have questions or you want to find a song. We'll help you. But now, I turn the campfire over to George Ward, who will tell you another favorite musical story.
Long, long time ago, 50 years ago, maybe a little more than that, a fellow named Guy Carawan went down to the Georgia Sea Islands. You can look the Sea Islands up. They run from South Carolina, which is where he really went, all the way down through Georgia to Florida. Barrier islands that come between the Atlantic Ocean and the land. People that used to live on those islands lived pretty much the same way they'd lived since the end of slavery time. And a lot of the stories they told went back way further than that. So Guy sat down with his tape recorder and recorded a woman named Janie Hunter, who sang at a place called Moving Star Hall. Miss Janie sang a bunch of songs with her friends, but one of the songs that she sang was really a story as much as anything else. Guy Carawan started to sing it himself, and I heard him sing it, and I stole it. And I brought it to camp where Smitty stole it from me. That's how songs go from one person to another. Miss Janie said, there were two children, brother and sister, and they were twins. They lived in a small house on the outside of an even smaller village with their mother. One day when all the chores were done, Jack and Mary said, Mother, can we go and just wander in the woods a bit? And she said, well, yes, but be careful. Well, they were about ready to go, and Jack stopped and he thought a moment. And he went out to the corn crib where they kept the corn for the pigs, and he took 4 big kernels of corn and put them down in his pocket. And then he went back in the house and he took a glass of milk, poured it, put it on the table. And he said to his mother, we're going to be careful and we're going to be all right. But if you see that glass of milk turn to blood, you go out to the pen in the back and you let my 3 dogs loose, Barney McCabe and Doodly Doo and Sue Boy. And I'll call those dogs and they will come and they will help us. He said, I'll call like this. Barney McCabe, Doodly Doo, Sue Boy, your master calling you. You can learn that, it'll come up a few times. Off they went. Through the village, out into the woods. Big shady trees, some pretty dark places. And they sort of lost track of time the way you can do, you know. Pretty soon it got pretty late. The sun's going down. They could feel it more than see it because of the big trees. They came to a little house way outside the village. There's an old lady standing on the porch. Old lady said, why, children, you look tired. You look hungry. You all come in. I'll let you take a nap and I'll hustle you up some supper. And they said, oh, Mother, thank you so much. And they came in and she took them upstairs and she put them under the covers in a room all by themselves, just a window there. And she went downstairs. She was a witch and they didn't know. And they're trying to sleep, take a nap, because they're tired. And that old lady pulled out a big old knife she called Tommyhawk. Big, long thing. And she started to sharpen that old knife. Go like this. Penny, get your knife. Penny, get your knife. Penny, get your knife. Go shock 'em, humpback, Josie back, I see Antony. Mama and your papa, they tell me so. See, so I think it's so. Ram, which sounds like a lot of words, but Penny, get your knife. Penny, get your knife. Penny, get your knife. Go shock 'em, humpback, Josie back, I see Antony. Mama and your papa, they tell me so. See, so I think it's so. Ram. The old lady, she's sharpening away on old Tommyhawk. The children can't sleep. And they say, "Ma'am, what's going on?" She said, "That's old Granny Frogtail just fussing to fix you up some dinner. You all go to sleep." But they didn't go to sleep. Jack, he began to worry and he began to wonder, and he went over to that window. It was a long way to the ground. So he pulled one of those 4 kernels of corn out of his pocket and he dropped it out the window, and it sprung up to be a tall ladder. And those children, they're down the ladder and they're gone. They are gone. The old lady comes upstairs with old Tommyhawk, the big old knife, and she's about to stab down through the covers 1 time, 2 times, pulls back the covers, and there are no children there, because Jack and Mary, they had taken a couple of pumpkins they found in the corner, and they had tucked them under the covers, so it looked like the 2 children asleep. Oh, she was a mad old lady, goodness. And she started right out after them, still sharpening that old knife. Try it. Penny, get your knife. Penny, get your knife. Penny, get your knife. Go shock 'em, humpback, Josie back, I see Antony. Mama and your papa, they tell me so. See, so I think it's so. Ram. Fast as they could run, she ran faster. Jack, he pulled out the second kernel of corn. He dropped it, sprang up to be a tall pine tree. And those children climb up that pine tree as quiet as they can until they're hanging on at the top, holding their breath. Old lady comes up to that tree. She's a witch. She can see in the dark. She looks up. She looks up. She takes old Tommyhawk and she starts chopping on that tree. Chip on the old block, chip on the new block, chip on the old block, chip on the new block, chip on the old block, chip on the new block, on the old block. That's easy to do that. Chip on the old block, chip on the new block, chip on the old block, chip on the new block, chip on. That old tree start to sway and start to bend. Jack and Mary, they know they're in trouble. Jackie drops that 3rd kernel of corn, and away back home on the kitchen table in her mama's house, that glass of milk turns to blood. And she says, "Oh my Lord, those children are in trouble." She runs out. She opens up the pen. And those 3 dogs, they come to the door of the pen. Old Barney McCabe stick his nose up in the air. Doodly-doo, his ears go up. Sue Boy, same thing. And way off in the distance, what do they hear? They hear Jack hollering from the top of that old tree in the woods. "Barney McCabe, doodly-doo, Sue Boy, your master calling you. Barney McCabe, doodly-doo, Sue Boy, your master calling." The dogs say, "Master, master, coming all the time. Master, master, coming all the time. Master, master, coming all the time. Old witch is chopping, chip on the old block, chip on the new block, chip on the old block, chip on the new block, chip on the old block." Just as that tree starts to sway and bend and bend and bend and tip over, old Barney McCabe rush up and he grabbed that old witch by the throat. Old doodly-doo, she sucked her blood. Jack, He dropped that fourth kernel of corn. It sprang up to be a tall bridge. Sioux boy, he dragged that old witch up on the bridge, and the bridge bent, and she fell in, and that's the way that story ends. Call the dogs home one time. Barney McKay, doodly doo, Sioux boy, your master calling. You try it one more time. Barney McKay, doodly doo, Sioux boy, your master calling. Janie Hunter. I should have introduced somebody. Mercy. Tony and Judy. No?
Are we on?
You're on.
Yeah,
No, I think it's Pete.
it's Pete.
Yeah.
It's Pete.
Are we on?
Yes.
Can you hear
Pete.
me?
Pete, yes.
You can hear me. Okay. Well, I'm going to take a few minutes to, as advertised here, snippets of Killooleet history, or snippets of memory of Killooleet history. Of course, John and Ellie first appeared on the scene there at Killooleet in 1948, summer of 48, with Margaret Bartlett, or Barty, who was the co-founder of the camp. And the idea being that John and Ellie will take over the camp, buy the camp, and which by the summer of 1949, they were ready to go right ahead and make Killooleet what it is and what it has been for so many years. The camp was much smaller than the one that most of us were used to. There were about 50 campers, ages 5 to 12. So the youngest campers were quite young. In 1949, which was my first summer, I was 13, so I was at the upper edge, the older level, and figured what probably was going to be my one and only summer. And I got the urge to go to Killooleet because, of course, John was at Dalton School, and most of the Killooleeters at that era and beyond were Dalton students. Of course, Barty was a teacher at Dalton, as was John. In the spring of 1949, at a middle school assembly, John brought movies of this camp that he was going to be running, Killooleet, these wonderful Technicolor home movies of kids playing with hay bales and working and playing and everything. And I thought, gee, that sounds like fun. I'd like to do that. So my parents signed me up, and we went off to Killooleet for the summer of 1949, which was John and Ellie's really first summer when they ran the camp by themselves. Now, in those days, to go up to Killooleet, everybody would meet at Grand Central Station and at night and take a sleeper train up to Vermont from Grand Central. So the counselors, everybody was there. We'd meet at Grand Central Station, say goodbye to the parents. All the kids would get on the sleeper cars, and then we would chug up to Vermont, and I think we'd get to Rutland. And at Rutland, the sleeping cars were turned off on a side track, and the trains went on, and until the dawn, when buses would come to the station, and we'd go up from Rutland to Hancock, to Camp Killooleet, and get off the buses, and there we are. And this, so from New York City to a sleeping car to Killooleet. Wonderful. We didn't get much sleep on the way up. There was a lot of gossiping and poking and playing, but so we were kind of tired. But here we are in this wonderful, wonderful place. And so again, they said the youngest kids, I think John and I still had some 5 years, but I think that they were going to have the youngest level at 6, and then gradually the age went up, because what is it now, Kate? About 8 or 9?
Well, it went up to 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Now it's up to 10
Up to
or 9
10.
and 10, because parents are very reluctant to let go of their kids.
Yeah, I can imagine. But so you can imagine. Okay, so there was 6-year-olds, and the 2 youngest cabins, or the youngest cabin, boys and girls together in the cabin, 6-year-olds, so on. That's real coeducation in those days. So the cabin size, of course, was pretty. I think there were 5 of us and the oldest boys, which was bunk 5 boys, and the counselor, wonderful counselor named Jack Beresford, great storyteller and a wonderful guy, Jack Beresford, and Herb Allen, who was a local man from Rochester. So we just had a wonderful, wonderful summer and things. One memory, typical kind of cabin overnighter events. We went on the cabin overnighter to Sunrise Camp on the long trail at Mount Horrid up there. Some of you have been there, I'm sure. And so the first night, Jack Beresford, who told great stories, happened to tell a story about Martian invasions, and Martians and everything. And it was really fun and good. Okay, we all went to sleep. In the middle of the night, Jack yells, "We're being attacked!"
Oh.
You wake up, and the first instinct is, okay, the story's going on. Except there's this tremendous crashing in the underbrush behind the lean-to. And one kid, and it was David Bartlett, I believe, he's going, he had the wind knocked out of him. A bear was attacking our, the food in the backpacks or whatever it is. Wow. And Jack yelled, he got scared the bear. The bear stepped on poor Dave Bartlett, knocked the wind out of him, and was crashing up the mountain. All right. So that was a wonderful first overnighter kind of experience.
Wow.
Memory.
And yet he came back.
Yeah.
What?
And yet you came back.
And yet we came back. Yeah, that was fun. And we went on with to the second night of the hike or whatever. That was good. So that's 1959. The second summer of and it was just such a fantastic experience. I mean, we just loved to kill it. I thought it was my last summer because I was 13. And so the next winter at Dalton, and those of us who were cabin mate and Killooleeters, we relived the summer over the week. We say, "You remember the time we did that?" Yeah, and all this stuff. Well, anyway, we prevailed on my parents, talked to John and Ellie, something like that, and they said, "All right, he's going to be 14. Give him another summer." Okay, so the reprieve. So went back for the second summer in bunk 5, and the wonderful Jack Beresford was the counselor, and the co-counselor was this artist from New York named Jim Gahagan. And if you notice in the main house, the murals, the big murals
With
of
big
the
long
big
faces.
long round of that was a Jim Gahagan thing. Anyway, Jim Gahagan was a great character. We nicknamed him Gats Gahagan, because he had stories about growing up in New York, with where the gangsters were and everything. So he was Gats Gahagan, and we were known as Gats Mob, the oldest boys. And Gats Gahagan had this wonderful old Model A car, jalopy, which started with a crank, and that was his personal car. He came up. Well, that was the start of the oldest. It was at the time. It was the oldest boy's relationship with the jalopy, and driving an old Model A car, which of course was immortalized in song by Jonas Littman and Mabel, My Model A. They still know about that song. You can still hear it. Or anyway,
Well, it comes in and out.
It comes in and out, right?
But it'll come back.
It'll come back. It'll come back. So then the idea, well, let's see, learn how to drive. Well, so you crank, or everybody would push the car, let out the clutch, boom, and it would start up and it would clatter around. So that was the beginning of the wonderful jalopy, which went on for years and years, I guess.
Years and years.
And Larry Wood put his electric starter in it, I believe. Wasn't it Larry? One of those guys along the way.
Could have been Larry.
I think it was Larry. So the jalopy. Another experience. In those days up there in Vermont, the porcupines were a damaging force. They'd eat people's crops. They would chew on porches. They would do a lot of damage. There was a bounty placed on the porcupine. I think it was 45 cents, something like that, 42 cents for a pair of ears from a porcupine. If you turn them into the town hall, you could get a bounty because they were being so destructive. Well, on an overnighter to, I forget which camp it was, but which campsite, in 1950 with a crew, gung-ho crew. Tom Pereira was in that crew. We thought, okay, porkies, and there were porkies all over this campsite. So we thought, we were talking to Jack Beresford and Jim Gahagan about, we got to get a porky. We could get 42 cents for a pair of ears. Well, you guys see what you can do. Take the initiative. All right, so we dug a pit. We dug a pit by the campfire. Sharpened stakes, put the sharpened stake in a pit. All these covered it up, all kinds of crazy things. Okay, then put the bait out that night. We're in our sleeping bags on the lean-to and waiting. Porkies. Sure enough, a porky came over for the bait. And we all had our clubs and the shovel and stuff. So we go at the porky. There's the porky. We go out. Bang, 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 bang. Poor porky. Okay. He didn't suffer much because went down. And then it's all right. What? Well, Jack Beresford had a razor blade in his kit. We said, okay, so who's going to do it? Well, guess who had the guts to cut off the porky's ears? Tom Pereira, of course. Right. So he cut off the porky's ears, and we thought, okay, this is good. But then, interesting, the rest of the night, it sort of hit, we just killed some living thing. And there were those moments of, sure, we're going to get the 42 cents for a pair of ears, and there was that adventure. But I do remember that sense of, oh my gosh, what have we done? You know, we have done to kill a living thing, and it wasn't a sporting hunt, so to speak. But that was an interesting experience that that I do remember. And maybe one last beginning of traditions down there was the commando raid. Apparently, there was a game at a camp where John and Ellie were in Manumet. Was a work camp that they were worked at. There was another camp, Ironwood, but I think this must have come from Manumet. They played a game, you know, of two teams, and one team threw flour, the other team threw water, and it's okay. So we had a special event, a regular Sunday special event, to have this water game. It wasn't called Commando Raid then. So I guess we played that, and it was kind of fun. But then somewhere along, I'm not quite sure whether it was later the next summer or summer, the idea of the oldest boys, and yes, it was the oldest boys, would sneak onto campus and attack with flour. With that somehow developed, and the whole mystique of Commando Raid. Do you remember that, Tony? Is that about right? Yeah. So then it became the whole mystique of the Commando Raid and sneaking and going up. And then flour, waste of food. You could do that. But John thought about there's talc up in northern Vermont at the talc mines, and so then we went to talc to save food. Of course, it was a few years before we realized about the white lung disease and all the talc. But part of the whole thing, of course, was to go and get the talc, and then in the dead of night in the Dunham House basement or someplace making talc bombs and so on, and then springing an attack on the camp at such events as maybe the dedication of the cargo net. I think was one of the raids.
That's a good one.
That would have been brilliant, because the dedication of the cargo net had half the staff climbing the net to prove that it was sound.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the dedication of the second cargo net that we did a raid. I remember, driving everybody's there driving the Jeep up, and Kenny Previtali had a bike with a siren on it. And I remember as I drove up in the Jeep, and Ken Previtali on his bike with a helmet on and everything going woo, woo, woo. Right? You remember?
That's great.
He remembers that one. Okay, so that was another snippet of memory. Well, I could go on for years and years. So that's a taste of. But it just
wonderful, Pete.
The thing about camp and memories and things, and because Killooleet was and is so much a way of life. It's not an institution. It's a way of life, which John and Ellie nurtured and was inculcated in the staff and in the campers and so on. That it is probably unique and must go on. Right? Okay, thank you.
Oh, Pete, thank you so much. Those are great stories. I hadn't heard them all, and that was wonderful for me. And yes, camp, John and Ellie still live on at camp, their ideas and their spirits and their sense of humor. And so, and their children and their grandchildren, yes. The Seeger family loves Killooleet and keeps it going, but with help of all the alumni and help of our loyal friends like Pete. So thank you. And now I think we're going to have another member of the Seeger family.
Yes.
Okay. Well, did you turn it off? Great, Pete. Those were wonderful memories,
Yes.
and like many campers, actually, Pete went on and became a counselor for many years at Killooleet. And he did. There was an opera I remember that went, "Where is the Porky?" There's a Porky on the roof, on the roof, on the roof, on the roof, on the roof. And there apparently was a whole opera, but that's the only part I remember was there's a Porky on the roof. At the same time, our parents were singing at campfires, and there was, especially before Ed Bedeau came with his banjo and a whole lot of new songs, there were other counselors were singing at campfires and singing around camp. And we're going to sing one of the songs we learned from them. It's a song about a prison, and it's a prison work song. The prisoners in the South, especially the African descended prisoners, were put to work in terrible conditions, laboring in the hot fields during the day, and they paced the labor, and they worked together by singing songs, and the rhythm in the songs kept them working together. And it wasn't only in prisons that people sang work songs. Sea shanties are work songs too, and the idea of sea shanties to get people to pull at the same time, and people lining the track on railroads sang songs. So there are a lot of work songs, but this particular one is a prison song taught by recorded by Alan Lomax from a woman in the South, Alabama, and it's called "Another Man Done Gone," and her version influenced almost everybody else who recorded it. Odetta recorded it, Johnny Cash recorded it, Uncle Pete recorded it, but John and Ellie created a different version. It has more repeats, and here's the way we learned it from them. Another Man Done Gone, and let's see if I've got a note. Another man done gone.
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 He had a long chain on.
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 I didn't know his name.
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 I didn't know his name. I didn't know his name. I didn't know his name. He killed another man.
He killed another man.
He killed another man. He killed another man. He killed another man.
He killed another man.
He's up for 40 years. He's up for 40 years. He's up for 40 years. You couldn't count my tears.
He's up for 40 years.
I don't know where he's gone.
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 Another man done gone.
Another man done gone.
Another man done gone.
Another man gone.
Another man done gone. Another man done gone.
Another man done
gone. Another man done gone. Learned from John and Ellie. And now we'll.
Wait, now it's my turn.
Oh.
Oh, God.
Now I'll pass the word to Judy.
Thank you. Well, it wouldn't be a campfire without a story. So now you all may lie down and enjoy a story told by Tex.
Hello, everyone. I hope that you and yours are safe and well. Happy to be here. I have a story for you about the terrifying alternate reality that might be just a heartbeat away, especially if you believe everything that you hear and read on the internet. It starts quite happily with a visit to Camp Killooleet by an alumna, Mira, who was both a camper and a counselor. She was a lot of counselors' favorite camper, a lot of campers' favorite counselor. She had a great time visiting, playing softball, going to a cookout. On her last day of her visit, she got up at the midday meal and made an announcement thanking everybody for their hospitality. But she said, I think I lost something while I was here at camp. It's a little metal device, which for contractual reasons I can't describe in any greater detail. But if you find it, please turn it in to Kate or Dean, and I've been told that you will get a bounty of Ellie candy for finding and returning it. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great summer. She took off after the midday meal. Now, this sounded harmless enough. What many people don't know about Mira is that in addition to her day job, she is also a genius quantum physicist who engages in high-powered secret research defending Earth from extra-dimensional invasion. So this was rather more serious business than she was able to discuss in public. Well, we cut to the next morning to a camper named Reuben. He got out of bed, unfortunately, as the eating bell for breakfast was ringing. In a bit of a hurry, aware that he was running late, he stumbled out of the cabin. It was a super foggy morning, the foggiest one he could ever recall at camp. But out of habit, he still went to the bike shed to get his bike, and as he retrieved his bicycle, he saw something shiny on the ground, glinting with a little morning dew. And he picked it up, and it was a little metal device with some gears and some buttons. And as he picked it up, he accidentally pressed one of the buttons, and the little gears started spinning around, zip, 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 and they stopped, bop. And then after they stopped, the little device went whirr. Reuben couldn't figure out exactly what it was. He was pretty sure that he never would. But he wasn't too worried about that because he saw Ellie candy in his future. He tucked the device into his pocket, got on his bicycle, and started pedaling as fast as he could towards the main house, even though it was pretty foggy. Unfortunately, he was in such a hurry that he didn't see that somebody had left the Green Monster softball bat out in the outfield on the upper field, which, as you may recall, is about 6 feet long and weighs about 75 pounds. He ran over it, took a spill off his bike, rolled around, was a little bit disoriented in the fog, finally sat up, shook it off, looked around, and saw Thomas approaching. Except, was it really Thomas? He looked rather odd. He had a little goatee, and he was wearing a colorful sash around his waist with a knife stuck through it. It made him look sort of like a pirate, but not the good kind of pirate. Thomas came up to him and said, "Reuben, you little puke, what's going on? You're making our cabin look bad. You're late for breakfast. Hurry up and get your butt to the main house, or I will suspend you from the cargo net by your shoelaces." Now, Reuben had never heard Thomas talking like that before, and he was quite taken aback. And he said, "But if you untie my shoelaces to suspend me from the cargo net, wouldn't my feet just come out of them?" Thomas sneered and said, "Don't you try to analyze the logistics of my threats. That would just make it worse. Now get going." Reuben didn't need to be told a third time, so he picked up his bike and wheeled it towards the main house. And as he was approaching the main house, he saw Kate approaching from her cabin. Or was it Kate? Kate looked awfully strange too. She had a little goatee. She was dressed entirely in yellow, and on a leash, she had a small, surly-looking alligator. As the two of them came up to each other, Reuben forgot about his worries about Thomas for a moment and said, Kate, I think I found Mira's device, and I was hoping to give it to you and get that Ellie candy. Kate gave him a hard look and said, who the heck is Mira? And what is candy? Stop bothering me with this stuff. Out of the way, I'm heading in for breakfast. And she shouldered past him, muttering under her breath, children. I hate children, except for supper. And something indistinct that sounded a little bit like Tamaramaram. Well, poor Reuben was completely distraught now. Nobody was who they were supposed to be. There was no Mira. There was no candy, even worse. It was like he was in some sort of weird parallel Mira universe into which he had strayed unwittingly. Things got no better when he sat down at his table. He was sitting at Abs's table, and she looked different too. She had a little goatee and a big scar that ran down her forehead and down her cheek. And breakfast was thin gruel and old crusts of stale bread. Reuben asked if he could go to the kitchen and get some yogurt and fresh fruit. And Abs just laughed at him and said, go ahead and ask them if you feel like getting run through the Hobart. One of the other kids at the table said, yogurt? Yes, yogurt. We want yogurt. We want yogurt. Abs grabbed her by the hair and dunked her face in her bowl of thin gruel and said, there'll be no more talk of yogurt. Eat your gruel and like it. After breakfast, there was an assembly on the terrace. Kate stood up in front of everyone with her alligator, and Dean was there as well. Dean also looked different. He had a little goatee and a big full mustache, which actually looked fabulous and stylish on him. Made him look a little bit like Wyatt Earp. And he had a peg leg crusted with what looked suspiciously like blood. And he was carrying a handful of wet noodles, which he slapped against his leg threateningly. Kate brought the meeting to order by saying, all right, you little maggots, listen up. We have an announcement. And Dean took up the announcement and said, I was in the ping pong room this morning, smacking rats with bowler hats and spats with a golf club, when I noticed that people have been continuing not to put the ping pong paddles properly in the ping pong paddle put up place. This is completely unacceptable. And the punishment for this is, Kate broke in and shrieked, decimation! Decimation! Dean said, that is correct. 1 in 10 campers will be chosen by lot to spend the rest of the summer living in the boathouse on a diet of grubs and mast. Somebody in the audience said, is there a vegetarian option? All mast, no grubs. Dean continued, and since the staff have not been helpful in enforcing this policy, you will also be decimated, and 1 in 10 staff members will join the campers living in the boathouse. At that point, there was an outcry from the various counselors saying, no, shame. Thomas jumped up and said, tyranny, down with Kate and Dean, down with Kate and Dean. And he and about a half dozen other counselors rushed up to Kate and Dean and grabbed hold of them and took them by the arms and took Kate's alligator away from her. And Thomas said, "Take them away. Tie them to upside-down play acts and float them over the dam." Clarissa said, I don't think that the play acts will actually go over the dam. Thomas shook a finger at her and said, "Do not question the logistics of my threats. Just do it. Do it." So Kate and Dean were hauled away, shouting, "You will never get away with this. We'll be back. Damn you." At that point, there was general hubbub and outcries, people exclaiming, "Huzzah! An end to tyranny! Anarchy rules!" Reuben was about to say something about the impossibility of anarchy ruling, but Thomas cut him off and said, "No, anarchy does not rule. I rule because I am shouting louder than everyone else right now." And Joe said, "That seems perfectly reasonable." And that was how Thomas became the director of Camp Killooleet in the alternate mirror universe. Well, that was just the beginning of a truly miserable alternate morning. For ceramics, Reuben and his cabin mates spent their time making ashtrays so that the counselors could all smoke at the table on the dining porch. And during swimming, the next period, they spent their time diving to the bottom of the lake looking for Corinne's goggles in the slimy muck at the bottom of the lake, taking turns while those who were drying off shivered and wrapped themselves in their towels and sang work songs to raise their morale. When the midday meal came around, Reuben was expecting perhaps another bowl of thin gruel. Instead, it was dead cat meat. Reuben had never had dead cat meat in the meal rotation at camp before, and perhaps unwisely he asked about it, and Ab said, "Yep, somebody just found them in a bag on the camp road. Can't put good meat to waste." Poor Reuben. He just pushed it around on his plate a little bit and had a crust of stale bread. After the meal was over, he thought he might go to the kitchen to get something else. On his way to the kitchen, he saw that several tables had not been cleared, so he grabbed up the plates and the silverware and brought them to the kitchen counter. Christy was there. She also looked a little different. She had a little goatee, and she was wearing chainmail butcher's gloves, and she had a big white streak in her hair like Bonnie Raitt. She looked Reuben up and down with his stack of plates and said, "What's that all about?" And Reuben said, "Oh, I just noticed that some of the tables hadn't been cleared properly, so I thought I should get them." Christy was a little taken aback. She said, "Why would you do that? Normally you're a terrible little creep." Reuben said, "Well, yeah, sorry. I was hoping maybe I could get like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I don't really like dead cats that much to eat." Christy looked around and said, "Peanut butter and jelly. Ah, don't let any of the kitchen boys hear you that, or they'll lock you in the walk-in." Reuben was pretty dejected and said, I just don't like eating dead cats. I like live pet cats." Christy looked at him again, more searchingly this time, and said, "There really is something different about you. Did you wash that Sharpie goatee off your face? You don't seem like you belong here." Reuben said, "It's true, I don't belong here. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm crazy, but when I woke up this morning, I was like in a different camp, and everybody was nicer, and there was a lot less facial hair. And then I picked up this little device." He pulled it out of his pocket, and somehow I think it did something weird, and now I'm here and I really don't like it and I want to go home. Christy took the device from him and looked it over and said, well, I'm no quantum physicist, but it seems like maybe if you push this thing here, and all of a sudden, the little gears started turning around, zip, 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 and then they stopped, bop, and then the device made a little whir. She handed the device back to Reuben and said, well, that's all I got for you, kid. Hope it works out. It wasn't much to hope for, but Reuben said, thanks, Christy. No PB&J? Get out of here. So he headed towards the back door of the kitchen and pushed it open and then turned around to thank Christy again, but she was already turning around and ignoring him and threatening a kitchen boy with a long-handled spoon. When Reuben turned back to go out the door, it slammed right in his face and knocked him back a few steps, and then he wobbled forward a few steps and stumbled through the door, and then he tripped on a partially crushed number 10 can and face planted right in the dirt outside the kitchen. When he picked himself up and shook himself off, it seemed awfully foggy for the middle of the day, but he figured he must just be still a little woozy from face planting like that, and he headed back towards his cabin, and the fog cleared up a little bit. And all of a sudden, he saw somebody walking up. It was Tex. Tex looked a little strange. He had a little goatee, and he was wearing a titanium spork on a lanyard around his neck, and he looked out of sorts. And he said, hey, you camper whose name I haven't learned 4 weeks into the summer. It's 10 minutes into rest hour. You need to get back to your cabin before I lock you into the bell house with a bunch of disgruntled porcupines. Reuben's heart fell. He was still trapped in the mirror universe, far from the Killooleet that he called home. He sat down and put his head in his hands in the middle of the upper field. Tex stalked off, occasionally looking back over his shoulder and indicating the direction to Reuben's cabin with his chin. But Reuben was disconsolate. All he could do was sit there until somebody else walked up. It was Thomas, but it was regular, good Thomas. He didn't have a goatee, he didn't have a sash, he didn't have a knife. He crouched down next to him and said, hey, Reuben, buddy, are you okay? You don't look so good. Reuben said, I don't know. I thought I was still trapped in the mirror universe, and there was evil Tex with a goatee and threatening me with porcupines. And Thomas looked a little puzzled, but he said, hey, Tex is just always like that. Don't worry about it. But I'm a little worried about you. I hear you had kind of a bad morning. I hear you threatened to suspend Vincent from the cargo net by his shoelaces. Is that true? Reuben wasn't sure. He was like, well, maybe, I guess, but I mean, what can I say? I'm sorry? Thomas was like, you should definitely come back to the cabin with me and say you're sorry to Vincent, but besides that wouldn't even work. If you untie his shoelaces to tie them to the cargo net, his feet would fall right out. Reuben said, yeah, you're right. That would be a dumb idea. I should apologize to Vincent. Oh, and hey, I think I found Mira's little device. Can I still get that Ellie candy for it? Thomas put his hand on Reuben's shoulder and said, absolutely, Reuben. I think you'll probably get a boatload of Ellie candy for that. Reuben said, oh man, what would life be like without Ellie candy? Thomas said, yeah, you can say that again. Reuben said, oh, what would life be without Ellie candy? And what indeed would it be? That's all the story I have for you tonight. Thanks so much and take care. I will give you back to Kate and Dean.
Thanks, Tex. Is that a little goatee I see on the edge of your chin there?
Tex, what a wonderful story. Thank you so much. It was fun to listen to and appreciate your wit and your great storytelling skills. We've had wonderful stories and wonderful songs tonight. We're going to wrap this up with a song that you can tuck into and sing along at home. It's called Go to Sleep, You Weary Hobo. I will occasionally line out the song, the lines, but it's a pretty easy song. You'll figure it out really soon. But I want to thank you all for joining us and making Killooleet really live very live tonight. And it lives on in all of our hearts. It's sort of snoozing under the snow right now, but it will join, campers will join us soon this summer. So meanwhile, we're singing. Go to sleep, you weary hobo. Let the towns just slowly by. Can't you hear the steer rails humming? That's a hobo's lullaby. Don't you worry about tomorrow. Let tomorrow come and go. Tonight you're in a nice warm boxcar, safe from all the wind and snow. So go to sleep, you weary hobo. Let the towns drift slowly by. Can't you hear? Can't you hear the steer rails humming? That's a hobo's lullaby. Well, I know your clothes are torn and ragged, and your hair is turning gray. Lift your head and smile at trouble. You'll find peace and rest someday. So go to sleep, you weary hobo. Let the towns drift slowly by. Can't you hear? Can't you hear the steer rails humming? That's a hobo's lullaby. Well, I know the police cause you trouble. They cause trouble everywhere. But when you die and go to heaven, there'll be no policeman there. So go to sleep, you weary hobo. Let the towns drift slowly by. Can't you hear the steer rails humming? That's a hobo's lullaby. So don't you worry about tomorrow. Let tomorrow come and go. Tonight you're in a nice warm boxcar, safe from all the wind and snow last time. So go to sleep, you weary hobo. Let the towns drift slowly by. Can't you hear the steam rails humming? That's a hobo's lullaby. That's a hobo's lullaby. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Tex. Thank you, George. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Tony and Judy.
Thanks, Elisa.
Thanks, Elisa, for running sound.
Running sound.
Thanks to all of our guests. Thanks to you for listening along.
And good night.
Straight back to your cabin.
Hello, Killooleet community. This is Chris Leonard speaking to you from my sweet New Jersey home. I was a Killooleet staff member for 10 summers between 1981 and 1992. I've been a psychotherapist for the past 25 years and an educator for 35 years. As we finally begin to wind down 2020, I find myself looking forward to a new year of renewal with hopes of returning to more positive routines. For over 70 years, Killooleet has been one of those positive routines for kids. I think you will agree that after the year we've all had, camp matters now more than ever. In any given year, Killooleet provides the unique experience of a non-competitive community that intentionally slows the pace to give kids the time and emotional space to hone their strengths while trying out new activities and social roles. The past year has brought the need for this kind of space to the forefront. As a mental health professional and educator, I've witnessed firsthand how closed schools, remote learning, and enforced isolation have negatively impacted the social and emotional well-being of young people. I've spoken with young people who have been anxious about becoming ill, who were grieving due to the loss of one or more older relatives or family friends, were feeling cut off from friends, unable to focus on school, or wondering why they should even bother to show up for school at all. Those of you with children at home have likely either seen some of these issues with your own children or know families experiencing similar difficulties. Camp provides the perfect antidote to the isolation and intensive screen time of remote and hybrid learning by providing the daily opportunity to mingle unhurriedly with friends in beautiful surroundings. Those children who are able to attend camp next summer and in the years ahead will have the distinct advantage of being able to make up for a lost year of socialization in an environment that emphasizes community and therefore optimizes interpersonal experiences and social emotional growth. These campers will also benefit from their immersion in nature and its inimitable restorative powers. There are two important ways in which we in the Killooleet alumni community can help. The first is financial. Making camp ready for reopening on June 29, 2021 will require some significant modifications, including hand washing stations, modifications to the kitchen space, and renovations to a number of living spaces. Camp is counting on us to bridge the financial gap to complete these projects. In the weeks ahead, alumni volunteers will be reaching out to us via mail, phone, and social media to enlist our support. But you don't have to wait to be called. I hope you will join me today in making a contribution of whatever you can to help Killooleet relaunch next summer. The second way we can help is to send our own children to camp and recommend camp to friends and parents of your children's friends. I know firsthand both how difficult it can be to let go of your children for the summer and how, in the words of John Calvi, there is simply no better place on earth for kids. If you are struggling with the idea of sending your child to camp, you will find that Kate, Dean, and any number of alumni, including me, are available to talk things through with you. So get your PayPal fired up, stay safe and well, and look for updates from camp soon. Please do take care of yourselves and stay safe.
An old song that Trudy Ledbetter wrote and the Weavers made famous in 1951 before they were blacklisted. And it goes, last Saturday night I got married. Me and my wife settled down. Now me and my wife, we're parted, Lord. I'm gonna take a little stroll downtown. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams.
Stop rambling, stop your gambling, stop staying awake at night. Go home to your wife and your family, lay there by a fireside light. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams.
Sometimes I live in the country. Sometimes I live in the town. Sometimes I have the great notion to jump in the river and drown. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams.
I love Irene, God knows I do. Love her till the seas run dry. But if Irene turns back on me, I'm gonna take morphine and die. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams.
Sometimes Irene wears pajamas. Sometimes she wears a gown. But when they're both at the laundry, Irene is the talk of the town. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. Sometimes Irene wears pajamas. Sometimes she wears a gown. But when
boat